to amend it to include protection specifically against discrimination against sexual orientation, transgender, or queer. I'll start with you, Assemblyman Linares.
I will certainly introduce legislation in the City Council, including the protection of transgender in the City of New York to be protected by the human rights laws of the City of New York, and it passed. And I believe that whenever there is discrimination against any group whatsoever, it is discrimination against all groups. So I will certainly be one to advocate to really make whatever law we have inclusive and protective of all people, regardless of their orientation, regardless of their background, regardless of their immigration status. I believe that this is our source of strength, and I think we still need to strive to bring about justice for all people.
All right, Mr. Williams, would you work to amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act?
Of course, I would be against discrimination of anyone. That's what, as I said, we talked about New York values, is about inclusion. And just as the Assembly member mentioned about the church right here around the corner, which it is said and done some of the most ugliest things in reference to what it talks about in this community. Not only did I participate in a march, we actually got them a lawyer to talk to in reference to trying to do something legally to figure out what we can do as a community to push back on that kind of ignorance and that kind of xenophobia and that kind of homophobia, which we do not need in our community.
All right, Ambassador?
I certainly would protect all human rights. I'm a human rights activist. As Ambassador for International Religious Freedom, we were part of the Human Rights Division of the State Department. We went all over the world to make sure not only nationally, but also internationally, all are protected. Part of my team, we have all inclusion in terms of everything that I do. I was part of the initiation of the first openly gay ambassador for the State Department. And so as part of my DNA, I abide by the Human Rights, Civil Rights Acts, but also the United Nations Human Rights Declaration. And so human rights for everyone, including marriage equity, are important to me. I will always support everyone to have the right to do that.
Ms. Gallagher?
Yes, I believe sexual discrimination of that sort is wrong and should be legally not allowed. So the short answer is yes.
Okay. Mr. Powell?
Yes, absolutely. I would work to include that in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You know, before there was marriage equality, there was domestic partnership. And I'm proud to say when I was in the City Council in the 1990s, I was one of the lead sponsors of the domestic partnership bill, which was pushed and was led by then Councilwoman Carolyn Maloney. 1992, I remember because I was before she was elected to Congress. And it was a very contentious vote. It only passed by 1 or 2, 27, 24 maybe. And so we had a domestic partnership bill here in the city of New York. And I was proud to have voted for marriage equality 4 times. Well, maybe not so proud of the other 3, but 4 times I had to vote for marriage equality up in Albany because unfortunately the state Senate would kill it. Proud to see that we now have marriage equality throughout this country, but we still have vendor inequality. We still have housing inequality. We still suffer from many of the things that African Americans and Latinos and women continue to suffer despite being in the Civil Rights Act.
All right, thank you. Assemblyman Wright?
Yes, and actually I think it was Adam and I were together when the Marriage Equality Act first was introduced, and we in the Assembly voted for it 5 times. 5 times, and it wasn't so fashionable to vote for it, especially those first 2 times. And we voted for it, and I was very proud to have voted for it. And that's why I'm also being supported by Danny O'Donnell, who was the author of that bill. Now, of course, I would vote to amend the 1964 Civil Rights Act to include all classes, LGBTQ, and certainly because the law has to catch up to the times, and this is one instance where it should.